The Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
$14.90 WGCH. This is Carrie Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. If you're wondering when's the euro going to blow up, what's going on with the price of gold, should I buy or should I sell, there's only one place to turn, and that is Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. And as always, Bob, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and I am very happy to be here again. And the answer to gold and silver is you just keep on buying it. And all of this falderoll you've actually seen for the last 3 months has been caused by the possible and probably imminent demise of the Greek government, and by default, and it's probably exiting from the euro. It's a very, very large event, because if it happens, Ireland and Portugal will follow. They have to. Because why should they pay if the other guys didn't pay? And a precursor to that was the loan swap, if you may, a word used to avoid regulation, the loan, and that's what it was, from the Federal Reserve to the European Central Bank was illegal. And the acceptance thereof by the European Central Bank was illegal. But that doesn't make any difference. There are no rules anymore, everybody. None. And so they have goo-gobs of money. How much? Whatever they want it to be. 10, 20 trillion? And so they can do what they want. And so if those three nations or more leave, they can cover it with loans that'll never be repaid. And on the other hand, you have Spain and Portugal, and they can neutralize their debt with 4 trillion. I mean, a mere pittance. And people living under bridges all over the world. And so that is the reason why the U.S. Treasury, through the Exchange Stabilization Fund, is trying to keep gold down. They let it go up a couple of days, and they hit it, knock it back down again, because of the imminent problems that exist in Europe that won't be cleared up on a need-to-know basis until April. And so we're going to be jocking and jiving around here at an alternately higher price for gold and silver. And that will continue until the bust, and then it'll go higher.
Right.
The bust, on the change, the default, because everybody knows what it's going to lead to.
Mm-hmm.
See, the problem is twofold. The banks, these are large European banks for the most part, are holding goo-gobs of these bonds. That makes them bankrupt. So they need money, so they give them money. So they're all fixed up. But in New York, they're going to have to do the same thing. $70 billion worth of insurance. The Federal Reserve has to step in and give them the money to pay it off. Now, what does all this mean? It means you're going to have inflation. Maybe lots of it.
Well, we're already getting some of that inflation now. It appears to be well over 10% according to shadow stats. And then my thought is, and I went to the Freedom Fest event in the Bahamas last week, and I'm postulating a theory that we're going to have at some point, and we aren't quite there yet, but we're going to have a grand jubilee where a certain part of everybody's debt, whether it's nations, individuals, businesses, banks, whatever it is going to be forgiven and just erased from the ledger sheet. And it's kind of going to be a global reset. You've been talking about that, a kind of new Plaza Athénée Accord or a new Bretton Woods for years. I think we're right around the corner from it. What do you think about it?
At least a year and maybe more.
Mm-hmm. How will we know that's
between
gonna
1 to
happen?
5 years on default, and it'll be multilateral, as well as the readjustment of currencies. They're going to do it when I have to do it. They're not anywhere near it. So all these people who are jumping up and down about default, keep on jumping up and down, and you probably wear your shoes out.
So what about Greece, though? So Greece is basically expendable, is what you're saying. They owe some money, but that's already been written off. Forget about them. Portugal, Ireland, they're gone. But is this going to be a row of dominoes, or is this going to lead to a temporary reprieve where things seem to settle down a bit, and then at some point down the road it's going to hit the fan again?
It'll come in stages. It's not going to happen all at once. They have too much control, and they get too much money, not only in the banks and the central banks. They just keep on printing it. I mean, the person who gets caught, which is the average guy, the schlepper, he's running around in circles. And I make the same amount of money and it buys half the groceries. I mean, what's going on? And that's the people who are really paying for this. People who can continue to increase their income, they're not so bad off. They're okay. But you take the old people like me, the Alta Caucus, you put them together, and they're a sorry bunch. I mean, if I didn't still work, I'd probably have a problem. I mean, the costs of living grow exponentially. I mean, try going out and a couple now, elderly couple, that don't buy many things. They just buy food, they pay their rent or whatever they got to pay, and that's it. They're probably in for $3,000 a month. But Social Security is only paying them $2,300, and they've got some money down at the bank that's paying them virtually nothing, and they keep on depleting their money because they can't make any money on their money. And so they're really in dire strait. And I'm talking about people who didn't throw their financial life away, people who led upright lives the way they should, and are being terribly castigated. But the government doesn't care. Wall Street doesn't care. I mean, all of these people have fathers and mothers and grannies and grandpies, and they're all getting it stuffed. But on the other hand, if these guys like on Wall Street are making several million a year, they don't mind giving mom and dad, $25,000 a year to make it. Well, that's a hell of a way to live. That's wrong. And that's how they're working this thing out. Creating all the money, keeping the system going, keeping them in control. It's simple.
Yeah, it's really a shame. People work their whole lives to build something, to build an estate, to leave something to their kids so they can retire with dignity and live independently. And then the government comes along, sets interest rates at zero, kills their returns, so then they have to look at something speculative if they want to make a decent income on their meager savings. And then inflation is ravaging what they've managed to save, so they're basically becoming slaves of the state, right?
That's it. And there's nothing that's going to stop it. One political party is as bad as the other. And I have no hope for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the best thing that can happen to them is they can die.
Right.
I mean, what else are they going to do?
Yeah, it's a really...
I mean, they get let's say they get two girls and a boy, and they're in their 30s and 40s. And each one of them's making $45,000 a year. And they got their own families. I mean, how much can they help? I mean, after taxes, you're making 45, you end up with 30. Mm-hmm. Divide that by 12. What's that? $2,500 a month for a worker.
Yeah.
That's the same as the two people on Social Security. If they continue to pay them Social Security and continue to increase the COLA. I mean, for 2 of the last 3 years, they didn't increase it. I know. I get Social Security.
Right. Yeah, I know my neighbor across the street, his kids, their employment situation's not great. They're kind of on again, off again. So he finished off the basement in his unit and put a couple bedrooms in there. And now his kids live in the basement along with their two kids. And, they're doing fine, but this is less than the ideal living situation. It's certainly not what these people thought it was going to be when they were growing up. And it's just the vestiges of the American dream are just poof, they're gone. And people who are still doing well think basically maybe not everything's okay, but they're okay for now. But they don't get that once that dream is gone, what's holding the country together, really? And
those people who are living in the basement are going to become revolutionaries.
Basement revolutionaries. It's got a nice sound to it, doesn't it? So, anyways, we got to get going. But what's your feel for gold and silver for the coming week? How successful is the current raid going to be against it?
Oh, I think it will continue to move up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be net plus on the week. I said that last week, too. And we're going to have to put up with this because we live in a country that's run by a criminal syndicate. And until you get them out of office, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect that the crowd that comes back to the House after November and the Senate, they certainly are not going to do anything because they're being paid by the powers behind the scenes. You're not going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. They don't care. They want theirs. They're stealing.
Yeah. That's really disheartening. But hey, if you buy gold and silver, if you take the steps now, when the thing ultimately comes crashing down, you're going to be prepared. Not only will you survive it, but you'll come out better than you were, right?
That's right. And I think there's some pluses to it, not a lot. It brings family cohesion. It makes you understand what culture and the family unit is all about. And I think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will that turn into better things? Probably. But you still have to go through the trials and tribulations of living on those lousy salaries or having a job at all.
Yeah.
And then the crime continues to increase. It's dreadful.
Mm-hmm.
I just picked up a piece out of a South American publication. They've had the police on strike. Hundreds and hundreds of murders.
Really?
Oh, it's like, I don't even know what to compare it to. It's just awful.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about moving to Brazil. You're going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And Argentina is just as bad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Every time I say that on a program, I get a few emails. Well, that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's you have to make the decision if you're going to stay or if you're going to go. And if you're going to go someplace, then that really is a whole nother set of problems. But we are going to talk about that. Yeah,
but most people will never leave.
No, definitely not.
They won't. They'll talk about it, but they won't. It's probably better that they don't.
Yeah, well,
they don't know how to adjust. They've never lived in another society.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them haven't even traveled.
Sure. So for right now, we're staying put. But Bob, we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. We've got the link to the International Forecaster on the site, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
You got it, and thank you very much, and thank you all for listening.
All right, Bob. Be well.
Okay, bye-bye.